franchise quarterback certainly let his team down in Trevor Lawrence missing some throws. That's not the only problem, but I will say now that we know Press Taylor's calling the plays, I thought he did a good job.
Yeah, let's also talk about that, by the way.
For sure.
That's honestly, shout out to Brent Martineau, who walked into the locker room after and was like, did I just get him to inadvertently tell us who's been calling the plays? Yep, somehow, some way you did. Well done, Brent. Look, yes. And when you watch the game back, you're going to say 16 wants that one back, 16 wants that one back, 16 wants that one back. It's one of the biggest problems. It's not the only problem. It's a problem. And that is where I've said to multiple people this morning, even if the Jaguars are to finally, and I shouldn't count my chickens before they hatch, but finally get a win this Sunday, even if they're to win both of their games in London and all of a sudden you're hovering back around 500 and things look bright and sunny, even if the improbable happens and this team finds a way into the postseason, I cannot help but look at this big picture and say, if he's not developing under Doug Peterson and Press Taylor and this current offensive staff, then this is simply a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. Wins at that juncture, which again, we are a far way away from that juncture actually happening. But even if the optimistic side of things was to prove true, if he's not developing, he only turns 25 years old this Saturday. Baker Mayfield, the show that he put on in Tampa Town this weekend, Sam Darnold, the continued success up in Minnesota, is proof that you don't have to give up on 16 right now, but you do need to surround him with a not only positive work environment, but one that is maximizing his skill set and giving him the confidence to make those throws, to see the whole field, and to not second guess himself. Oh, and by the way, not change the play at the line every other time you snap the ball.
Yeah, Taylor, you nailed the score on the head yesterday morning on the kickoff show. But did you see the end result being the way that the Texans were able to score whenever they wanted to there at the end of the game?
No, I did think that even in my explanation, I was saying I think it would be close. I thought it would be competitive, but I did feel like Texans would just have that extra edge at the end to be able to pull out with a win. And I think that when you look at what the Jags have been, their MO for the last years, and I hammered it in the kickoff show, I've been saying it on here, 4 quarters just hasn't happened. And when you're playing a team like the Texans who aren't even playing their best football right now, but I mean, Nico Collins is incredible. Some of the catches he makes, the plays that he can just create. And C.J. Stroud, there were several moments where you felt like he should have been sacked 4 times, and he's just running around back there, getting to go through all his progressions 70 times. That's something that you don't want to see, because that's an offense that will take advantage of those moments big time. And that's what happened later. You know, they took advantage of some of the things that the Jags just couldn't fully complete. And I think that this was, I said 24-20. I don't think I've ever gotten an exact score before. Usually it's within a few points. But that's exactly kind of how I expected the game to go. Honestly.
But see, here's the thing, Taylor, and I reflected upon this. I haven't watched the game back in its entirety, but watching some parts of the game back, listening to the post game, and I can't help but come away from that game, having watched it in person, and feel like the Texans have flaws. Not that every football team doesn't have flaws.
Yeah.
But watching that team in person yesterday and conversing with some of our contemporaries in the Houston media contingent, I am going to go out and say it because I had multiple people say that they agreed with this. The 2024 Houston Texans, week 4 of the NFL season, look a lot like the 2023 Jaguars, week 4 of their 2023 season.
Yeah, I mean, the difference, though,
the difference is Nico Collins. Yes.
Well, and that they were on their 3rd running back, and they were without Tank Dell.
Very true.
And Tank Dell is probably, to me, their wide receiver, too. Stephon Diggs hasn't really got his rhythm yet with the Texans. You saw a little bit yesterday, but I think nothing crazy to where you're like, oh, yeah, that's Stephon Diggs. So they were missing their number 2 wide receiver, and you're missing both of your starting running backs, and you still can bring out a win. You're a pretty good football team.
But that's the thing. Yes, at that juncture last year, the Jaguars were not banged up, but things weren't going well, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were barely matriculating, in the words of Travis Etienne, matriculating up and down the field against the Pittsburgh Steelers, letting teams that they shouldn't let hang around. It came down to the final play of the game against Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints, granted on the road in New Orleans, and they were finding ways to win in spite of that. The Texans couldn't move the ball yesterday. The Texans got to Trevor Lawrence twice yesterday. For an offensive line that was so maligned, and Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter were expected to run all over, outside of some miscues from the quarterback, the offensive line held up against this heralded pass
played
rush.
Well. The interior of the line, besides Mitch Morse, did not play
okay,
great.
but the point is, I do not think the Texans are this juggernaut team. Do I think that they're finding ways to win? Yes. And so that is where I think the frustration should be even greater. Because this is this proved, and the frustration should be greater among Jaguar fans. I think it's already at a boiling point, so we're not even going to
you don't need to poke
stroke
the fire.
that. Right, we're not going to stroke that fire even more. But the reason I said in all my post-game reports yesterday on Duval Rundown and on Quick Hits, driven by Arlington Toyota, the reason I was so optimistic was because I left media availability throughout the course of last week at the Miller Electric Center, and I was very concerned that this team would be checked out after they got blown out in Houston by 3 scores, and there was no hope and no signs of life. And walking out of that locker room yesterday,
in
yes. No, I'm talking about post-Buffalo, Lauren. I'm talking about Wednesday locker room availability.
Right. They got blown out by 3 scores by Buffalo.
I know. I assumed they were going to get blown out by 3 scores by Houston, too. And they did not. And walking out of that locker room yesterday, well, yes, there was frustration because this is a team that, yes, they're in first place in your division, but you match up with them and you were right there. There's frustration, but there also was this renewed sense of maybe we aren't that far off, which is even more frustrating because you're right there. But at the same time, it's not this case of, wow, it's so broken. There's no turning back. Like, it's awful. Week 4.
Yeah, I think they're far off. I think that the Houston Texans, to me, are a really good football team. I think they're still figuring things out. There's pieces that they're going. This is if you want to connect it to last year and how the Jags played in the beginning and how kind of they were finding ways to win despite not being their best selves. They were healthy. They had everybody. The moment they did lose Christian Kirk, the wheels fell off. Houston's missing both of their starting running backs and their wide receiver too, and they're still winning. Imagine if Tank Dell, I think the game, honestly, they would have probably won by a couple touchdowns yesterday if Tank Dell was playing and if Joe Mixon was in. So they didn't have their key pieces, and they're still not, the wheels aren't falling off like it did for Jacksonville last year.
But they have a coach that unifies them. They have a coach that they believe in. And I'm not saying that the Jaguars don't believe in Doug Peterson, but based off of his presser after the game, it sure feels like he's incredibly frustrated with his players. That came across very evidently. And so that's not where the Texans are. They look to D'Amico Ryans. He went to that sideline, that defense, and fired them up during the game. And they have a better relationship is what it feels like from the outside looking in. But again, if the quarterback plays better, if Trevor makes 1 or 2 of those throws, then we are talking about, wow, the Jaguars got off the mat. They beat a team that's not playing good football in the Texans with 12 penalties and muffing the punt right to start the game. Like, that would be the conversation. But the quarterback didn't play well enough.
Right.
We can hammer the play calling the last few weeks, and I think it was a lot better. But this time,
one was on Trevor.
This one's absolutely on Trevor, and it sucks for those of us who's defended him and said, yeah, it is the line, or it is the play calling, it is the combination of things, drops, all that stuff. Yesterday, he doesn't have the pocket awareness that he once had, and that you can say goes back to last year, but he needs to figure that part out.
Right. Well, that's where, again, it goes to this bigger picture of even if they are to bounce back, is it broken? Like, that's the point I want to hammer home. The point is that I believe that, again, walking out of that locker room yesterday, there at the very least was some sliver, some semblance of, you know what? We are what our record is, but we are not the Carolina Panthers of last year. This is not an inoperable football team right now at this juncture. However, long term, if this staff, if this operation, this meshing of players and coaches is not working, if Doug Peterson is not able to fire up this team and get this team to respond to him the way that D'Amico Ryans evidently, from that anecdote, is able to, that is where big picture I have questions. I don't have as many questions outside of the quarterback missing a couple throws, which, again, look, he's going to miss more. Like,
Nico Collins missed a throw.
CJ Stroud.
Yes.
Matthew Stafford's going to miss throws.
Stroud
Patrick
missed
Mahomes is going to miss throws. Josh Allen is going to miss throws. It's how you respond after that. And it's also the operation around the quarterback.
It's getting the ball when you have the lead. You're up 20-17. You get the ball as an offense with just under 4 minutes to play. This is your game. All you have to do is, and I say all, they couldn't do it. Obviously, they haven't been able to do it. But in theory, all you have to do is march down the field, take time off the clock. You can kick a field goal and hope that you took enough time off to not give Stroud the ball back with enough time to drive down the field. But at the same time, the offense got the ball and they had it for 46 seconds and then gave the ball back to the Texans. That's not how you win football games. And again, the defense is depleted. I thought Ventrell Miller played fantastic yesterday.
Yeah, he stepped in well.
And if Tyson Campbell's out there, maybe Nico Collins doesn't go for over 100 yards. We don't know because he can't play right now. But at the end of the day, your offense had the chance and you sucked. This is the best way I guess I could say about Trevor right now, Taylor. He sucked yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he sucks overall, but I understand why some fans have now completely given up on him.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's clear issues, and I've been very vocal about that. I think there's things that have needed to be fixed since even the beginning of last year. I talked about it, and they just almost seems like it's gotten worse. And we could talk about, yes, quarterbacks are going to miss throws. There was 4 or 5 really, really, really bad throws, not just like, oh, that was a miss, let me take that one back. At least 4. And Fred Taylor talked about it this morning. Like, he's regressed. He's not playing the same ball that he used to play. And Fred was like, I don't know the answer. I don't know what happened, but he doesn't look like the same Trevor as we saw previously. And he said he counted 4 that were just awful. Like 4 that the NFL starting franchise quarterback should not be making, and especially 4 times in one game. And I said it last week. I was like, it happens usually 2 or 3 times where I notice where I'm like, that was not a good pass. This game, they were glaring because it was in moments where you felt like there was a little bit of momentum, and then it was Trevor who kind of killed the momentum. And usually it hadn't been that. Usually it was a drop or a sack that somebody misses a block, and we end up talking about those more. But these, because it came down to he makes 2 of those 4 really bad ones, and this game could look a lot different.
And then you go back to this, to me, is not on Trevor. You have, though, the ball in the red zone, really first and goal.
Yeah.
And you can't punch it in. And that, we all saw Brandon Sheriff get put on his butt on one of the, I think it was a second down and the third down. At that point in time, that's not on Trevor. That's not necessarily on play calling. That is on your offensive line. You needed to score there, and you couldn't do it. And then you take the timeout, and then it's a quarterback draw, and everybody in Houston knows that.
Yeah.
But had Trevor had better line play, you still get in there. And so that's also, it goes back to, should Doug Peterson have gone for it on that short 4th down? Like, Trevor, we saw a lot of emotion out of him saying to Doug, like, let me go for it.
Yep.
And
he thanked Doug in his availability after. He was like, I'm glad he let us go for it. Like, because I believed in us that we could get it. And that's
right. I meant earlier in the game when
they didn't take the points.
When Doug decided to kick the field goal, and Trevor was motioning like, no, let us go for it. And Doug decided to take the field goal, which most of us have been clamoring for him to do for quite some time. And then they kicked the field goal.
I think Logan Cook was also kind of lobbying, at least from what I could see, to be like, all right, here we go, field goal unit, let's go. So at least that was from my perspective in the press box. It looked like that was a couple players being like, no, let's take the points here.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it all is a combination. Yeah. But to me, the defense had a solid performance for a secondary that certainly is so beat up right now. Ventrell Miller, we found out just before the game, Devin Lloyd, when the inactives came out, wasn't going to play. So more shuffling there at the linebacker position. But we talked about this on the kickoff show yesterday, Taylor. I was like, we're 50 minutes into the show, and we haven't mentioned Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon Walker. And Eric Armstead really couldn't be thrown in there, too. Josh Hines-Allen got to C.J. Stroud, got him by the jersey or the towel, really, and they just couldn't take him down. And that has to be frustrating, too. Yeah,
and those are the ones that are frustrating. And C.J. Stroud's, that's what you kind of see out of him, is he is good at kind of evading pressure and getting out of those certain situations where you feel like you have him. That's what was incredible about what the Vikings did, because the Vikings defense was able to just completely tear up everything CJ Stroud wanted to do because of that. They were able to not only create that pressure, but finish those plays and turn them into sacks. And that's when you can get to CJ Stroud. If you're not creating those moments, then that's when he'll be able to just throw. I mean, there were some plays where I was like, I felt like he was just standing back there and looking like, all right, someone move this way, get open, and then they would. And it was just like, why doesn't it work like that for our offense?
I constantly ask those questions during games for sure. All right, Mia, so you went into the locker room post-game and got to talk to Christian Kirk, Travis Etienne, Daniel Thomas, Ventrell Miller, any other guys?
Yeah, those were those guys. Also, Brian Thomas Jr., Anton Harrison. You'll hear from some of those. Thank you to our friends on the text line, Designed by Lifetime Enclosures, as well as the MyBookie Digital Studio. We'll also get to you guys throughout the course of the program. Thank you to 370, who says I have the worst take I have heard in a while. So, you know what? We're off and firing on a Big Chief Tire Monday. Let's do it, folks. Let's head into the locker room next.
What's the bad take?
Oh, that I said that the quarterback misses throws. But,
that's a bad take.
But the best quarterbacks in the league make the ones he missed yesterday. When you need it most, you paid him how much? He missed two pretty much wide open. We lost by 4. Look, I'm not dismissing it. I'm just saying that if you think the quarterback is the only problem right now, then you're ignoring the rest of the operation. Like, there's other issues at hand. But yes, certainly, put it on him. I'm okay with that. Put it on him. He can handle it.
Yeah.
And he can stand at a podium and he can take it, perhaps more than other people in the NFL and in this town. So, look, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, cool. I mean, look, I'm going to stand by the take, though, of I literally left practice Wednesday and was like, my God, they may not win another game this year. And they still may not. But at the very least, I felt like the sentiment wasn't we are completely checked out.
Yeah.
It was, you know what? We're there. Like, we understand we are still there, and there's still opportunity. You just have to, in the words of Christian Kirk, from what he told me in the locker room, which you'll hear momentarily, you have to just focus on 1-0. Like that, it's that simple at this juncture. You have to throw all the other big lofty goals you had out the window in the current short term.
On the plus side, Tank Bigsby, I thought looked great again, and so maybe they do start to lean in on that run game even more. All right, so we will take you inside the locker room when we return. It is a Big Chief Tire Monday. If you want to visit them online, go to bigchieftire.com. It's that easy. I made my appointment for my oil change like that, and right now they've got $10 off oil changes, so visit them at bigchieftire.com. It's 1010XL 92.5 FM.
If offense and defense don't win the game, sometimes it's up to the special teams.
And here comes the field goal team. They've got to hurry.
After the game, catch the Crown Royal Special Teams Player of the Game. Live generously and life will treat you royally on 1010XL.
Start your Sunday off with a cup of Joe and some sports medicine intel. This is Joe C. inviting you to join me and Dr. George Bari for Breaking Bones every Sunday morning at 7:30. And if you miss an episode, just look for Breaking Bones wherever you listen to podcasts.
Now, the Florida State Seminole Report, brought to you by your local Ag Pro, your home team.
The Florida State football team played its first true road game and suffered a 42-16 defeat at SMU. With the loss, FSU saw its 7-game road winning streak come to an end, a run that was the 5th longest active streak in the country. The Noles return home to Doak Campbell Stadium for a matchup against number 17 Clemson on Saturday, October 5th. I'm RJ Saunders with your Ag Pro Seminole Report.
The kickoff to savings event is here at AgPro. Through September 30th, we're offering 0 down and 0% for 84 months on John Deere compact tractors. Get a 1025R tractor with loader for just $279.99 per month, or a 3025E tractor with loader for only $349.99 per month. Visit your local AgPro store today. Offer ends September 30th. Limited time offer. Some exclusions apply. See dealer for details.
Mia here, and folks, I know it's almost October. It's still hot outside. And that means your AC better be blowing nice and cold on the inside. If for any reason it's not, my friends at Duck Duck Air Conditioning are here to help. Their qualified service techs can handle any type of cooling issue at your home or business. So don't deal with the summer heat outside and inside. Give Duck Duck AC a call today to schedule service. 904-862-6769 or online at duckduckac.com. Duck Duck AC is a licensed mechanical contractor.
This is Greg Huntington, a.k.a. The Mangler. I'm on the winning team at Waste Management. WM is the largest sustainability company in North America. If your business needs sustainable environmental services for waste removal and recycling collection, then you can count on the industry leader of WM to deliver results. Your services will be completed in a timely, safe, and eco-friendly manner. Go to WM.com, and get signed up today. If anyone can talk trash, it's The Mangler. Go Team WM, and as always, Duval!
It's time to take it back to the 90s, Jags fans. Be at the bank Sunday, October 6th as we debut our Prowler throwback jerseys against the Colts and induct legendary head coach Tom Coughlin into the pride of the Jaguars at halftime. Kickoff is set for 1 p.m. You're not going to want to miss this matchup. Lock in your seats now by going to jaguars.com/tickets or call 904-633-2000.
Helmets and heels.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
Mia here. By the looks of it, there were some huge hits betting on MyBookie this weekend. If you didn't make the right plays, you have Monday Night Football tonight to get right. A doubleheader, as a matter of fact. The Titans travel to Miami to play the Dolphins. Basically a pick-em. So who do you think is going to win? You know, here at 1010XL, we don't bet on the Titans. We are taking the Dolphins all day, hoping their defense can cause major problems for a turnover-happy Will Levis. And if you think that hits, why not do a parlay and bet the over-under total 36.5? A $100 bet pays $260. MyBookie is running the double deposit bonus still as well. You need to get started now. Use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. Double your money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Make sure you head on over to mybookie.ag and claim that double deposit bonus, then parlay your way to cash. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, and make your season a winning season with MyBookie.
Elbow pain, whether acute or chronic, can make it difficult to do normal activities like playing sports, doing household chores, or even sleeping comfortably. Dr. George Barry here, and no one wants to deal with pain without solutions on how to feel better. We've all heard of tennis and golfer's elbow, but there's plenty more that can cause pain, like osteoarthritis, muscle tears, and nerve entrapment. All are treatable at Barry Orthopedics. Getting you back to full health is our mission, and there's a number of different treatment options we can offer. Call us today or visit BarryOrthopedics.com.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
All right, ladies. We have identified the problems. Last week, we talked about the solutions being maybe mix up the offensive line. The Jaguars chose not to do that. I still think put in Cooper Hodges for Brandon Sheriff. I think at least see what you got there. And then we asked for more Tank Bigsby, and we got it, and he looked really good. And certainly Travis Etienne, as we found out, had the shoulder injury. Mia, on the broadcast, they kept saying, he has no injury. He has no injury. And at home, Brian even said, like, in that one pass protection, Etienne got blown up when Trevor got hit. And he's like, I think he suffered an injury on that. And then, of course, it came out that he did have the shoulder injury, but he, of course, came back in the game as well. So it was interesting that Dearness Johnson was getting the ball ahead of Etienne at that point in time when we didn't know yet what was going on.
Yeah. All I can tell you is that he said it happened playing football. So I'm going to take him on his word. And then he looked pretty good afterwards. I also, and I said this to Taylor too, like off the air, I can't help but come away from it. And the conversations had in the building this week that there was an emphasis to get Tank Bigsby the ball more. I don't think this was Travis Etienne was benched. If I had one more person text me during that first quarter and say, he's being traded, they're getting rid of it. No, like, hello. And Travis said it afterwards. And of course, you can listen to that full availability on the 1010XL Jaguars YouTube channel. He said, like, we need to be lightning and thunder. Mm-hmm. We need to both be playing.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it. And I go back to when Travis Etienne was drafted here, and folks in Clemson reminded me part of why there was still so much left in the tank, even for, ironic pun intended, so much left in the tank, even for the ACC's all-time leading rusher, is that Travis Etienne averaged about 15 touches, not carries, touches per game in 4 years at Clemson. And then he has the Lisfranc injury. And I'm not saying he's done or spent, but the reality is that you need to preserve this. The fact that he came into the league and still had, comparatively to the likes of a James Robinson or someone who was just running to the ground because they were the offense at their collegiate institution, you need to preserve this idea of him being a top 5 player in total yards over the past 2 seasons in the National Football League. And how you preserve that is by keeping him fresh and keeping Tank Bigsby out there. I say all this to say, Tank didn't touch the ball after this failed second and goal? Like, what happened? Because Travis was banged up on that first drive. Did you use all the tank plays?
Yeah,
Were there
like,
no
that's
more
all we have.
Well, we have checked off everyone on the plate sheet, so there we go. No more tank. Like, that was perhaps look, because I even tweeted it. I did not think Press Taylor called a bad game until the final quarter and a half, and a lot of it stemmed from you are averaging 6.6 yards per carry. This player is a big reason why, and you just decided to leave him on the sideline again.
It's funny because at that point you didn't know who was calling the plays.
Yeah, it was. I think a lot of people, the panic came from, like, honestly, Etienne's body language himself. He looked like he was frustrated on the sideline. Maybe some of that is because injury. Maybe he was a little frustrated that he felt like he was banged up a little bit. But at one point, like, helmet kind of tilted back, and like his face just looked angry. So a lot of people, of course, are going to see that and be like, "Oh, he's mad. They must have benched him."
Right. And again, at that point, you didn't know exactly what had happened. But usually, the broadcast will show that athletic trainers working on someone right after they come off the sideline. And so because we didn't even get to see that, we just didn't know. All right, let's head into the locker room. Christian Kirk was asked just how to help his quarterback and keep him focused and positive.
Yeah, I think number one, it's just, that we're here for him. We're here to make him better, make him go. We know he strives for greatness every day, and we know that, he puts us in the best position to win. And so, regardless of if we're losing games or not, we need to be better as well as a group and as a unit of just making sure that we're doing all the things to make sure that he's successful, because I've always said it, when he's going, the sky's the limit. And so it's just taking it 1 week at a time. We still, like I said, have so many more opportunities, and, I have every, ounce of confidence in Trevor taking us to where we need to go and getting this thing turned around.
At least Kirk was involved yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
It was fun. It was good to finally see the Christian Kirk Trevor that we knew was there somewhere.
And on that 3 and out in the fourth quarter, that only took up 40 seconds of 46 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
I did think that third down play. First of all, the second down throw to Gabe Davis. It's a great play by the defensive back. It is what it is. That happens. Should you be running it? Yes. But I can't help but feel like this offensive operation, I won't say the play caller, I will say the offensive operation, when they run the ball and they don't have success on first down, they're panicked and they won't run it again on second down. And that's something you could go back over the course of the last 3 years and you would see that pop up time and time again. And then on third down, I did come away from that feeling like, you know what, he's our go-to guy on third down. We have to get the ball to him. And again, situational awareness suggests you should just be running the ball and running the clock. And the fact that the Texans only had 2 timeouts because they had blown one on a dumb challenge by D'Amico Ryans. And so, that's where, yes, you want to fault the play caller for that. But I don't fault them for saying, you know what, Trevor and Christian are finally in a rhythm. And in crucial moments like that, you want to get your quote-unquote best players the football.
And Brian Thomas Jr. is one of the best players on this team, bar none. I was glad they got him the ball a lot as well, and he should have had a better stat line once again. He should have 2 more touchdowns than he does on the season. But you do start to wonder, Taylor, if Trevor Lawrence doesn't have Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram both, not one or the other, but if he doesn't have them both, is that where we start to see the massive issues?
Which, I mean, if you go back and look at the history of this, it kind of does point to that, at least this last year and a half, because we talked about how critical it was when Christian Kirk went out last year, and then now without Evan Ingram, there definitely does feel like there's this void that they can't totally make up for. And I do think that's a part, if we want to look at some positives. All of us were screaming, get the run game going, 158 yards rushing. That's what you want to see when you're looking at this team who's just trying to figure something out, And so when you have that, and then you do think about it, you match that with, and what if Evan Ingram was here? What if Evan Ingram was healthy? How much different does this offense look when both Ingram and Kirk are on the field? And history shows a lot better offensively when the 2 of them are healthy.
Yeah, certainly. All right, one more from Christian Kirk. Mia alluded to this in the last segment. Not thinking about that 0-4 record.
The record stuff is out the window. I think you just, focus on just going 1-0 every week. And, that's the thing about the NFL. You got to, Monday, go back, watch it, learn from it. But you got to flush it and move on.
Yeah, I mean, at this point in time, you have nothing else to do. play free and easy. Maybe that will help. Although I thought that's kind of how Trevor would play yesterday, is you literally have nothing to lose at this point in time. I guess, yes, because it was a divisional opponent, maybe there was that extra pressure. But now moving forward, yes, the Colts are coming to town, but right now the Colts sit at 2-2, and you have, at this juncture, you have no thought of the playoffs. So just go out there and play free and easy, and maybe we'll see that, maybe we won't.
And Travis Etienne, as a matter of fact, RJ, and I believe this will be clip number 1, actually, so I'm calling an audible here. But Travis Etienne was actually asked about that idea of playing free and easy. And he spoke in the locker room this week. He spoke after the loss to the Bills about this need to, you know what, with your record the way it is, you need to just play football for the same reasons you started playing Pop Warner, which is that you love the game. And he actually unsolicited, if this is the right soundbite, and I believe it is because I know I clipped it for social, he unsolicited referenced a couple players who he felt like exemplified that idea of just playing for the love of the game, and that could be the spark the Jaguars need.
For sure. You see guys celebrating first downs. I feel like you love to see that energy. I love Ventrell. I feel like just seeing him out there making plays just kind of brings the offense energy. I just love the way he plays. He just plays the game like with a swagger. You can tell he loves football, and I love seeing him out there make plays. And he definitely gave us a lot of energy. BT, I love BT. He going out there making plays for us. Tank, he did a hell of a job today. And you just got to rally around those guys. Whenever those guys making plays, it's on us to make them better. You know, we got to come in here and we got to finish. We got our players playing well, and we got to help them as the guys who've been here a couple of years and just find a way to get it done.
Speaking of Brian Thomas, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on him, I thought was one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. If you don't like what he did, then you give him a warning and then tell him shouldn't do that again. Nico Collins did almost the exact same thing later. There was no flag.
Well, they also, little did the Jags know that, hundreds, thousands of miles away at MetLife Stadium in New York, Alan Lazard was flagged for the same exact thing. So perhaps that was a conversation among the NFL officiating crew.
Look out for this.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And the teams just weren't.
Then shouldn't Nico Collins have been flagged?
They're
Yes,
inconsistent because they just called a penalty last week. I can't even remember who it was. He did like a bow and arrow celebration and he got penalized.
I think it was Neighbors. I think it was Malik Neighbors.
Was it? Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was Neighbors. He did a bow and arrow celebration and they said it was like offensive because it was a weapon. And literally, Jaquan Brisker, that is like his celebration and does that every week. And I was like, hold on.
Right.
I'm
and
confused.
Then if you're going to say that's an unsportsmanlike, then dancing after you score a touchdown, that's
then
not
be consistent in those
Correct.
calls. That's when fans get frustrated. Like we talk about the holdings all the time and you get mad. The one last week with Trayvon obviously was one everyone kept posting that video of, and you get frustrated because you're like, there's these obvious holds where you're like, okay, he's holding for 4 seconds, and then they'll call ones where it's like the tiniest little brush of a shoulder, and you're like, just have some consistency, and people won't be as upset about some of these calls.
Yeah, if the Jaguars had won yesterday, obviously Houston would be hammering home the penalties that they got.
Oh yeah, it was almost 100 yards.
And
of
that's the thing.
penalties.
And when I say that they look like the 2023 Jaguars, like I cannot shake the fact that this is now 3 straight weeks that the Texans have had double-digit penalties. And they're getting away with it to their credit.
Yeah.
They've gone 2-1 in that stretch. But at some point or another, the law of averages is going to come back to haunt you. You cannot continue to operate that way.
Or they figure it out and it's early. We've talked about just in general, it's honestly been clunky around the league. Like the amount of teams that we've seen. Every team the Jags have played, the next week they get crushed by whoever they play. So it's kind of a little bit alarming. The Bills just got absolutely rocked by the Ravens, and it's happened every single week. So this is such a weird, shifty season for everybody. So it is like the Texans still
parity
winning.
is real.
Yeah, like they turned over the ball more than the Jags. They had 100 yards of penalties. They were missing 3 of their offensive weapons and can still win. To me, that's signs of a good team. They're just still trying to figure some stuff out.
Yeah, and watching them yesterday and the week before, I didn't think they looked like a good team. But what do good teams do? They find a way. Yeah. And the Jaguars against the Dolphins, certainly against the team in the Texans yesterday, you had the lead in the fourth quarter and you couldn't finish. And so right now, you're certainly not a good team. But let's hope that they have confidence going into this Sunday's game. We will keep the Jaguars conversation going.
Maybe AR. We don't know that. AR says he could have gone back into the game.
They're saying that with the hip pointer, Anthony Richardson was ruled out yesterday for precautionary purposes. Mm-hmm. But if I'm Shane Steichen, I 100% am playing Joe Flacco.
Oh, for sure.
Based off of what he did to this team last year. I'm 100% playing him.
And then when do you bring AR back?
When he's 100, because I also don't think you want to push it. Like, AR has a history of injuries. So God forbid you put him out there and he's not 100% and then gets wrecked, and then now you miss him for 5-6 weeks. I think they're probably looking at this like, we don't need our starting quarterback to win this football game, so let Flacco go out there and just do his thing, get us through this week. Anthony's healthy and they're good to go.
But isn't AR
when Flacco reverts
guy?
back?
I mean,
he's the guy. I don't know if he's Steichen's favorite guy right
He's
now.
a roller coaster guy. Like, it's just
Steichen drafted him, or at the very least, he was part of the management that drafted him. So if he's healthy, if the medical staff
if he's
has cleared
healthy,
him,
yes. But I don't think they'll push it if there is like, okay, well, he's 100% great, good to go.
The Colts were better last season with Gardner Minshew than they were with Anthony Richardson. I think they'll be better with Joe Flacco.
No,
than
I do. That's
Anthony
why I'm trying to push this
We want
narrative.
Anthony
We're
Richardson.
trying to push this narrative here.
All right, we've got more to do. You are listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Did you know you can charge the all-new Honda Electric Prologue in the same receptacle as your phone? You don't need these special charging stations at your home. Simply plug in your Honda or your phone. See your local Honda dealer now. We're electrified.
This season, check out our revamped website at southernsteerbutcher.com. Click on the Promotions tab and our Jacksonville Weekly Grilling Specials will hit you in the face like a hot route over the middle.
For tasty tips and juicy breasts, choose Southern Steer Butcher.
Hey, Jacksonville, Taylor Dahl here of Helmets and Heels. Are you looking for a remix on the original Chick-fil-A chicken sandwich? The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich is a flavorful spin on a familiar favorite, created with a Chick-fil-A filet, a drizzle of honey, pickled jalapenos, and a spread of savory pimento cheese. The Honey Pepper Pimento Chicken Sandwich combines your favorite flavors with a twist. And this year it's back with a bite with a spicy filet option. Available for a limited time only, so stop by and enjoy one today at your local Chick-fil-A restaurant.
Homeowners, listen up. The Fed has taken action, lowering rates for the first time in years, and Loan Pronto has followed suit by lowering mortgage rates big time. Prosser here. Loan Pronto just locked in a homeowner at 4.59% APR, the lowest in 2 years. Whether you got your loan last month or last year, it's time to call Loan Pronto and dump that high-rate loan. You can lock in a lower rate fast with virtually no paperwork and usually no appraisal. There's no limit on how many times you can refi, so get started. Even if you're in process with another lender, give Loan Pronto a call. If you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Purchase loans available as well, so call now. Get your rate quote in minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like those other guys. Call 904-999-1508 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781 on approved credit, MLS consumeraccess.org.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
I'm living proof that with Rebound Rehab, you can bounce back and get back in the game. Joe C. for Rebound Rehabilitation, and they helped me recover from an ankle injury that had me down and out. Their team of physical therapists ensure you'll get the best treatment you need to recover and regain mobility. From back, shoulder, and neck pain to a nagging knee or arthritis, Rebound Rehab can help form a game plan through therapy and exercise, complete with an app so you can continue to recover at home. Check out reboundrehab.com. 8 convenient locations.
Hey folks, this is Dave Benyon with my son Ammon here from Zero Res. Ammon, you've been cleaning air ducts for a while now. What are some of the reasons customers might consider getting their air ducts cleaned?
There are many reasons. Many times, people suffer needlessly from poor indoor air quality produced by the conditions in their air system. Construction dust, the presence of bacterial growth, and years' worth of buildup all come together to make your air ducts a pretty gross place. If you suffer from allergies, have recently moved, recently remodeled, or have never had your air ducts cleaned, then now is the best time to call. By calling Zero Res, you'll have the peace of mind of knowing that you called the best of the best. Our state-of-the-art truck mount system and top-of-the-line service representatives simply can't be found anywhere else. Google Zero Res and read thousands of 5-star reviews.
So what kind of deals can I expect?
Just mention that you heard us on the radio, and we'll give you $100 off your air duct cleaning.
Wow, that sounds like a pretty great deal. Remember, folks, Zero Res,
spelled forward or backwards, it's the right way to clean.
Post-game Monday on 1010XL is brought to you by Dandy Foods, makers of quality fresh sandwiches and home of the good stuff.
Jeff Lagerman here. Now that football season is here, make sure your ride can get to that tailgate or away game safely and dependably. You can trust the ASC certified professionals at any of the 27 independently owned Napa Auto Care Centers and the quality Napa parts they use. Napa Auto Care Centers can handle everything: oil changes, air conditioning, brakes, engines, transmissions, and more. Napa Auto Care offers a nationwide 24-month, 24,000-mile peace-of-mind warranty on most repairs. Find a Napa Auto Care Center near you. JacksNapaAutoCareGroup.com.
This date in sports history is brought to you by Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
On September 30th, 1980, Oakland outfielder Ricky Henderson sets American League stolen base record with his 9th in the A's 5-1 win over the Chicago White Sox.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
This morning on The Drill, Dan Hicken said the loss on Sunday at Houston falls at the feet of Trevor Lawrence.
The Jags gave Trevor no excuses for the first time in a long time. Generally speaking, we can sit there and go, oh, gosh, he's got no time to throw. Oh, gosh, the receivers don't get open. Oh, gosh, the play calling is abhorrent. Yesterday, none of that was true. Yesterday was a win.
He had his best
Trevor
opportunity
makes a
yesterday.
play. And in the end, he's a little better than 50% for 170 yards. Yeah. Come on, dude. You're better than that, or maybe you're not.
Dan Hicken this morning on The Drill. I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah and Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Helmets and Heels is switched on by
First Coast Lighting and Fans.
Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor on 1010XL.
Mio, Brian Taylor, RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks with you on this Big Chief Tire Monday. All right, I'm going to ask y'all point blank. Is Trevor Lawrence going to be the guy that can lead the Jaguars to a Super Bowl victory?
Depends
Yes
who
or
the
no?
next head coach is.
But is he good enough?
Yes.
Taylor?
I think he's good enough. I think that there's things that need to be fixed. We got to hit the reverse and start going back the other way, because right now we're going
Reverse,
backwards.
Terry.
Reverse, put it in reverse. Because right now we're kind of going backwards, and that's what's scary. And to Mia's point, we joke about, we joke sometimes about that next coach and the offensive play callers and stuff like that. But when we just heard from KOC last week, and he was talking about how he said coaches fail players
Organizations fail young quarterbacks
more often than the quarterbacks are failing the organizations. And I think that stuck out to me so much, because we've seen all of these guys, and we could go through the examples this year of these quarterbacks who have made this flip. We were just talking about Baker Mayfield in the break and how well he's playing. And you need somebody who can do that with Trevor. Trevor is not developed yet. Like, there's still things that have to be worked on with Trevor Lawrence. We're in year 4. You would hope that you were closer to the final product than you are. But I do think some of that is an urban year that completely was a hot mess disaster. And then now there's this regression because you don't have the right people again. I do think you bring the right people in, and Trevor is going the other way in the positive light that we had seen. But I do think it's that important for him.
And before I would argue, well, Trevor doesn't have the weapons that some of these guys have. Like Joe Burrow has Jamar Chase. And this year, Sam Darnold has Justin Jefferson before Kirk Cousins had him. Baker Mayfield has Mike Evans, one of the best receivers that's been in the league in the last 10 years, right? But I do think Trevor now has the weapons. He's got the intermediate guys, albeit Evan Ingram is hurt right now. But between Kirk and Ingram, and now he's got the deep threat guys in BTJ and Gabe Davis, I still have faith that he can figure it out. But it's going to require, whether it's a new coach or not, but it's going to require, I think, some extra studying on his part. I think he's putting in the effort in the gym and in the team meetings and things like that. But I think there's still got to be some other stuff, some situational football that he also has been criticized for turning the ball over. That seems to be a little bit in his head too. And part of this is certainly on him to be able to fix it. All right, so yesterday, he, of course, was at the podium post-game. He was asked if the communication and operation was better this week than it has been.
Yeah, I thought it was all good. I thought we played fast,
golly, I don't know what our stats were offensively, but we left so much out there too and still felt like we moved the ball well and just weren't able to convert enough. Third downs, still don't think we were great today. Not sure what the numbers were, but didn't stay on the field enough. And it's a team game, but like at the end of the day, I feel like I left a lot out there tonight and pretty frustrated with that.
Golly is the best part of that.
Golly.
Oh, no, I was going to say the best part is he's taking responsibility, which, again, I don't think this is an excuse. He's 24 years old, folks. He turns 25 on Saturday. Go poll your closest 24-year-old kid in your life and see if they would be willing to stand up there Hester Prynne style and wear it on the sleeve. I don't think that's the case.
That's a Scarlet Letter reference for people who have no idea.
Yeah, I like to think our audience is well educated. Anyways, so the point is that Trevor Lawrence, yes, is at fault. But Trevor Lawrence has no issue standing at the podium and not saying, well, it's on the scheme, it's on the coaches, it's on this person, it's the whole team. He takes it, which, again, I don't know if that is the case across the league, let alone in this town.
Do you think Doug Peterson yesterday, when he met with reporters post-game, do you think he was as accountable as Trevor was?
Look, he's not wrong that players need to make plays. Yeah. I'm not saying he's wrong, but it's fascinating that players need to make plays and coaches need to coach better. But the play caller called a great game.
Yeah, I think he felt it. The play callers did their job in this game, and that's why he went that route, because we've heard other times Doug say stuff about, the miscommunication. He would more steer it towards that than being like play calling was bad. He never said that, but he would say, we've got to fix these certain plays, or, maybe this was the wrong choice in this specific moment, things like that. But when it comes to Trevor's always been that guy to be accountable when it comes to these type of situations. That's great. Like, take those things and be better next week. And we just haven't seen that yet. And so, great. I'm glad he's saying, this is on me, because it was. And so now take all of that. He's going to probably hate watching this film this week, because there's going to be a lot of moments, like Mia said at the top of the show, where he's going to be like, I want all 4 of these throws back, and the games could look massively different. And so he's probably going to come out of this week of watching this and critiquing himself, probably even harder on himself next time we talk about him when he rewatches it, talk to him, because it's just one of those games where there was a lot left on the field from Trevor Lawrence.
Certainly. And last season, towards the end of the year when he wasn't playing well, I had the excuse for him, and lots of people did, well, he's not practicing. And he's hurt. So you can't take a guy that is beat up and not able to get on the practice field and be able to simulate the game plan. But there's no excuse now, unless there's an injury that I'm not aware of, and I don't think there is.
No, somebody asked me that when I was doing the watch party at Monkey's Uncle, and somebody asked me, they're like, is he like hurt and they're not telling us that? And I was like, I haven't heard anything in that world of he's not 100%. It's nothing we've heard. And they were like, okay, because I feel like I can almost pinpoint the time that things just started changing and getting worse, and it is getting worse and worse. And I was like, well, if it is, we don't know.
Yeah, and I've gone back and forth with a couple of our Heeligans on the text line with regards to sports psychology. I don't want to speak for Trevor medically, both physically, but also the emotional and mental side of it. I can tell you that there are players in that locker room who have benefited greatly from the sports psychology program here in Jacksonville, in addition to whatever they do outside of the Miller Electric Center. I don't know if that's it. And when I say sports psychology, I also do hope, and again, this is to speak to our audience, our Heeligans. I believe you are all very intelligent people, and that's why I want to have this conversation, because I even brought up therapy and sports psychology to my mom last week, not about Trevor Lawrence or the Jaguars, about something else. And she was like, don't use that word. It's 2024.
Use what? Therapy?
Yes.
Oh.
Don't use that word.
It's like a trigger word for some people.
Right, but it certainly is.
It's way more obviously accepted now and talked about. And these players, the NFL does put an emphasis on that mental health side of stuff. So it is an important topic.
Right. And so I think we're all fair in having this conversation of there's a lot going on here. Like we said, there's a lot of issues going on, whether it's the defense giving up 345 passing yards, to the quarterback missing throws, to the right guard missing 1 block. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of blame to go around. But I also know with how this offense is designed, at least from my standpoint, because I don't know the playbook. I've never seen the playbook. But from what I've seen from covering this team for the last 3 years and 6-7 years overall, what I can tell you is that there's so many options. there's so many checks and alerts, and then there's also you got to pay attention to this, this, and this. And look, he's paid $275 million. I see those of you on the text line trying to insist that he's paid to do this. I understand that. But Baker Mayfield's also paid handsomely. Yeah. Jordan Love's paid handsomely. He's making the same amount as Trevor. And I understand he's been banged up, and obviously yesterday was quite the situation. Right, that was quite the situation up there. But again, I just don't. I can't compare the two playbooks because I don't think I'm ever going to be privy to them. But I just can't help but come away from there's so much going on here, both within the actual game, let alone the byproducts of everything that occurs after the game is over and what is occurring in the game. That we do need to have this conversation of the simplification again, not just of the actual play on the field, but also everything else that goes into it.
How loud was it yesterday?
That's the funny part. We actually joked, Lauren, that, it was kind of empty, the third quarter up in the upper decks there at NRG Stadium. But it is loud by virtue of how the stadium is constructed. It was certainly loud. They had their decibel thing going, and you could feel how loud it was. But then you look around from the press box view, which is on the upper floor, like the 8th floor, which is the highest floor at NRG Stadium. And you're looking around, you're like, that whole section's basically empty. So I don't know how they do it, but it was loud, but it is fascinating because then you'll walk around the concourse like I did, and you're like, oh, there's a lot of open seats here.
Especially with how close that game was. Like, if it was a blowout, I'd be like, well, duh, people usually leave at those moments, or a lot of people will leave. But a game like that came down to final seconds and clearing out is probably not the best.
Do you have confidence going into this Sunday's matchup at home against the Colts? The Jaguars haven't lost to the Colts in Jacksonville since 2014, somewhere in there. So do you have confidence just because of the history between these two teams? Do you have confidence because the Jaguars were close this week? How are we feeling about Sunday?
I'm confident because, like I said, I expected after what I saw in that locker room last week during practice, I legit was like, oh my goodness, like they're done. They're spent. And I know I was not alone in having that sentiment. And I left the locker room again yesterday, and I felt more optimistic about, you know what? Yes. Is it frustrating? Sure. Take football out of it. I think so many of us can go back to low points in our life where it just feels like nothing's going right, but at the same time, you have to go and you have to put the work in and you have to continue the process, as they call it. And it is frustrating. But at the very least, you say, you know what? I've seen that following the process of whatever your career is has gotten me, or your personal life, following a certain values and certain ways of operating has gotten me to where I want to be before. And so you have to just keep shooting, which Travis Etienne and I had a nice fun back and forth. We'll play that here in just a second about that idea of you have to just keep shooting. That's the only way you're going to get out of this slump. And I felt more optimistic that the Jaguars will continue to take shots as opposed to packing it in.
Yeah, I think the history of the Colts here makes you have a little bit of hope just because it's been, no matter what the situation was on either team, it just is something that it's one of those things that you just can't get around. It was kind of how the Jags were forever with Tennessee. It just felt like no matter what, they couldn't beat Tennessee. And so it's kind of like that. Colts fans feel it too. They know. But I also do think this is a Colts team that's getting better. I think Jonathan Taylor's really found himself. I think
he does have a mild high ankle sprain. So
yes, I saw that. Well, that's definitely something to keep an eye on. We talked a little bit about Anthony Richardson and that injury. We'll see how that ends up going. I think most people here may even want Anthony Richardson over Joe Flacco. But Michael Pittman, who was virtually non-existent the first couple weeks, now just had 113 yards. Josh Downs they've had this connection. They've started to form. Alec Pierce has kind of like been his guy so far this year, Anthony Richardson. And he had probably his worst game of the year this last week because Michael Pittman had such a good game. Their defense has kind of shifted, turned the page on their rough start and now has looked really good even being beat up. So it's a team also that to me is trending and they're getting better direction. But if we're basing what the Jags did yesterday, they look like they're trending that way too, hopefully. So we'll see. But I think if you just look at the stat alone of the history of the Colts here, you have to hold on to that as much as you can.
Yeah, September 21st, 2014 is the last time
the Jags
insane. Lost to the Colts here in Jacksonville. Look, the Steelers, I thought for sure were going to beat the Colts yesterday.
Yeah, I did too.
Even if Flacco played, I thought no chance. The Steelers have found a rhythm offensively, and certainly their defense is playing lights out. They're the best in the NFL. And then they turn around and allow 27 to the Colts. So just when you think you know what's going on in the NFL, you blink and we, like you talked about earlier, Taylor, the Ravens put a hammering on the Bills last night, and the Bills were, I thought, one of the best couple teams in all of the league. All right, did you want to hear more from ETN?
Yeah, let's quickly, because I think that's a good way to kind of like put a bow on this first hour of Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. Let's go to, it would be number 4, RJ. Travis Etienne, first of all, is a gem, both on the field and off the field. And we appreciate his transparency, his honesty, his quirkiness, because this was all in real time yesterday when I asked him, can you just, be like a basketball player? And if you're in a shooting slump, you have to just keep firing away.
Honestly, I never thought about it like that, but you're right. Like Kobe said, why would I worry about a shot? I haven't took it. I think it was Jordan. But I know Kobe didn't mind taking the shot. He didn't care if he was going to miss or not. He was going to shoot it every time. And we just got to keep having that mentality, We can't go in the game defeated. We just got to keep playing for each other, love up on each other, and just finish in the red zone. I feel like everyone sees we're just one play away. It's just the little things, the little details. And if we just finish in the red zone and come away with points, it's a different story.
As I'm listening back to it now, it's almost like, I don't know why, but for some reason listening back to it, I felt like I was listening to Leroy Butler, where like he's like stream of consciousness, like speaking out loud, but in real time his brain's like, oh wait, I think it was Kobe.
Jordan.
I think it was Jordan, but Kobe also never met a shot he didn't like. And it's true, and like that's the only way out of it. Like, is you have to keep playing.
Yeah. It's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Michael Scott. Thank you, Wayne Gretzky. And so but it is reality. And I think for those of you who, also follow basketball, I think you would echo those sentiments. Yeah. The greatest shooters of all time have found themselves in slumps at one point or another. And it's how you respond to it. Yes, that's cliche, but the fact that you keep shooting the ball, and it can be frustrating as a fan, I'm sure as a teammate, but for many, getting lathered and finding some little success that leads to other success, that's the only way that you're going to get your way out of it.
We'll talk some college football when we return. That Alabama-Georgia tilt went the way of the Tide. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday. You can find them online at bigchieftire.com. They were voted the best tire shop in Jacksonville for the 5th year in a row at the Community Choice Awards. It's 1010XL 92.5 FM.
The weekly Pick'em contest. Make the best picks and win a pizza party from Salvatore's Pizza at Tapestry Park. Pick the worst. You'll still win some pizza, just not enough for a party. Brought to you by MyBookie. Make your picks at 1010XL.com. Now you can watch 1010XL shows all day on X, Facebook, and YouTube. Brought to you by MyBookie. Experience Vegas from the comfort of your phone anytime, anywhere. Sign up today. Use promo code 1010XL.
Mia here. By the looks of it, there were some huge hits betting on MyBookie this weekend. If you didn't make the right plays, you have Monday Night Football tonight to get right. A doubleheader, as a matter of fact. The Titans travel to Miami to play the Dolphins. Basically a pick-em. So who do you think is going to win? Here at 1010XL, we don't bet on the Titans. We are taking the Dolphins all day, hoping their defense can cause major problems for a turnover-happy Will Levis. And if you think that hits, why not do a parlay and bet the over-under total 36.5? A $100 bet pays $260. MyBookie is running the double deposit bonus still as well. You need to get started now. Use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. Double your money with promo code 1010XL before you even place a bet. Make sure you head on over to mybookie.ag and claim that double deposit bonus, then parlay your way to cash. Bet on anything, anytime, anywhere, and make your season a winning season with MyBookie.
If you are an experienced electrician looking for your next big opportunity, look no further than the Miller Electric Company, a trusted name in the industry for over 96 years. At Miller Electric, we tackle the biggest projects in the city, offering you the chance to showcase your skills on a grand scale. We believe in rewarding hard work with the best pay, top-notch benefits, and an unbeatable culture where people actually care about each other. Take your career to new heights with Miller Electric Company. Apply today at millercareers.com. Miller Electric, an equal opportunity employer.
Home of the Jacksonville Jaguars. WJXL AM Jacksonville Beach. WJXL FM Jacksonville Beach.
Thermal Engineers is hiring. Thermal Engineers is a commercial HVAC contractor serving North Florida for over 20 years. Qualified technicians and installers. How does top pay, 401k, and full benefits sound? And a signing bonus. Is it time for a positive change in your career? Join the family-oriented commercial HVAC contractor at Thermal Engineers. Call 230-1172 or go to Thermal Engineers, Inc., an equal opportunity employer.
It's a Big Chief Tire Monday. The local Jacksonville shop for fair prices and service you can trust.
This is Hayden Hurst, NFL tight end. I just wanted to say how grateful I am for Dr. Lip and Active Health in Jacksonville. Wasn't sure where my career was going to go this offseason. Had a lot of issues with my back and right hip. Thought about hanging it up, but thanks to those guys, everybody at Active Health, they got me back to where I needed to be. So thankful for the Bulls Pipeline connection. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Can't wait to see where this year takes me out in LA.
Active Health Jacks can help you too. Give them a call today at 904-296-0202 or go online activehealthjacks.com.
Now, the Performance Painting High Performance Play of the Game. Performance Painting. Prepare, protect, preserve.
When the Teal and Black needed a huge play made to give them the lead while on the road, they looked to Captain Kirk to guide them through that charge. In the third quarter, Trevor Lawrence would find the Jacksonville wide receiver for an 8-yard touchdown, making the score 20-17 in favor of Jacksonville with 6:16 left in the period. The Kirk score is your Performance Painting Play of the Game.
Does the building you go to work in every day need a little love and attention? Jason Parker here with Performance Painting. Great companies take great care of the buildings their staff and customers walk into every day. If the building you're in doesn't match the vision you have for your company, we can help. Go to performance-painting.com. Our highly trained team makes the difference. Quality coatings applied with pride.
Performance Painting.
This is Mark Nato. My sons and I have seen the doctors and PAs at Southeast Ortho for everything from lumbar spine stress to elbow tendonitis. Southeast has always been there, been truthful, and always been on point. Everything they say happens. We can't thank them enough for what they've done and the great care that they have taken of our sons.
Relieve pain and get back to life. SOS. Southeast Orthopedic Specialists.
This is Molly McDonald with your 1010XL Southeast Orthopedic Specialist Local Sports Update, brought to you by Riddle Wellness. Recapping college football this past weekend with the highly anticipated matchup between Alabama and Georgia, Alabama walked away with the win 41-34. The Bulldogs attempted to come back in the second half but came up short, moving Alabama to the number 1 spot in the AP Top 25 poll and remained undefeated. The Miami Hurricanes also remain undefeated after their win over Virginia Tech 38-34 on Friday. Tonight in Monday Night High School football, the Bishop Kenny Crusaders head to Parker to face off against the Braves. Kickoff at 6. The Bulls Bulldogs will stay at home for another week when they host the Baldwin Indians tonight at 6, looking to continue their winning streak with QB Ethan Drum leading the team. Catch both games live on 1010 AM and 92.5 FM. It's 86 degrees at 1 o'clock. Time and temp brought to you by Bueller Air and Plumbing. Stay cooler with Bueller.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
Light up your lunch with Helmets and Heels.
Presented by First Coast Lighting and Fans.
On 1010XL.
Okay, so Lauren, as we roll into the 1 o'clock hour here on a Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels, you said we're going to pivot to college football, look back at the weekend that was, and you Heeligans delivered. We didn't even say we're going to talk Georgia, Alabama, we're going to talk Florida, we're going to talk Florida State. The fact that it now says DJ Uiagalelei or Brock Glenn on that Knowles depth chart, we'll get to all that. You'll just immediately start sounding off. So let's read a sampling of those. We appreciate that sampling. Let's begin with a guy who I'm still trying to figure out what the tie is to Jacksonville, and that's Boise State running back Ashton Jeanty, right? I'm pronouncing that right? Jeanty. So from 690, Jeanty for Heisman. That dude is different. 82 for 845, 13 touchdowns, all that while sitting an entire second half. From the 3-2-1, if Ryan Williams keeps it going, he's a future number 1 pick, maybe for the Jags, ? And then finally, heard that UCF did not look great. Think the Gators can win. I saw UF transfers at defensive end and right tackle, dueled it out in Oxford. I want the Gators to just lose and fire Billy as soon as possible. Again, we didn't tell you guys what we were talking about. Y'all are ready to pivot to college football, so let's do it.
There was so much fun from this weekend. Obviously, the Georgia-Alabama game, I know we'll get into that. There was a lot of things to take from that one. But the Miami-Virginia Tech game, that one was one of my favorite games to watch, honestly, of the weekend.
It was fun until the end when Virginia Tech had the Hail Mary and the refs couldn't decide. They called it the touchdown. That's exciting for Tech. Then they obviously do the review, which lasts forever. Then they end up saying it's not a touchdown. Then Miami celebrates. Miami actually was celebrating it initially. The lights went dark, players ran on the field, and then they're like, wait, refs sorting it out.
Let's go down the road. Did you think it was a touchdown?
Live, I did not, because I couldn't actually see anyone catch the ball.
Okay.
Yeah,
so what do you think now after video review?
Some of the videos that I've seen does look like he caught the ball,
Okay.
but I think that obviously the call on the field, I don't think there was enough evidence whatsoever to overturn that.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of Miami fans were like, no way. And I'm like, I don't know. I saw a couple videos where it looked like he had it all the way down.
And the person closest to it, not looking through a lens, that referee that was right there called it the touchdown.
Yeah.
So if you don't have enough video evidence to overturn it, like you said, Taylor, then you leave it a touchdown. And that's probably coming from the part of me that was rooting for Virginia Tech to upset Miami. Right. And had it been the opposite, maybe I would have been like, no, it wasn't. Had it been
well,
the other
they
way.
covered, I'll tell you that much.
Yeah.
And we sat here and we said to Leon Searcy and we said it to Matt Hayes.
That's
plus
a large
19
number.
and a half. And even when it shrunk to plus 17 and a half, I'm still like, dude, this is a Virginia Tech team that, yes, they're 2-2. Their back is firmly against the wall. But they were a preseason darling for a reason.
Yeah.
I mean, like, this is a team that you saw signs last year, if only at the quarterback position, where you were like, okay, they could be dangerous. They could have, a multi-dimensional offense. And I think you saw some of that against the Canes. On the other side of the coin was that by virtue of the Canes defense, perhaps, has more questions than we realized previously.
Well, they have such an easy schedule, the Canes do, that they were going to get a scare somewhere along the line. This was certainly one of them. But they just don't play a whole lot of ranked teams. And so they won't.
It's hard to really tell if you're not playing those top teams, honestly.
Correct. Absolutely.
I do think with Cam Ward, where you would almost consider one of his worst games, and he still played well. Obviously, turning the ball over twice is not ideal. But outside of that, some of the things that he does, and even when he does turn the ball over, not phasing him at all, is something that you love to see in a quality, obviously a quarterback that you want to see starting consistently. But I just love watching him play.
Cam Ward has to be so thankful he chose Miami over FSU.
Oh, yeah.
Or the NFL. 329 off the text line, designed by Lifetime Enclosures. The ACC made a business decision.
Yeah.
They need a team in the playoff. And that's where I will open up with another big picture on this Big Chief Tire Monday, another big picture conversation. Which conference is more wide open right now for that? Number one, the two spots in their conference championship game, but then number two, that automatic playoff bid.
Probably the Big 12.
I was just going to say the Big 12 or the ACC right now.
Yeah, I'd say Big 12.
Yeah, because who's going to win that? That's up in the air. Maybe Kansas
Who deserves
State
to win that? Yeah.
But Kansas State got whomped by BYU, who now may be the best team in the state of Utah, if only for 1 week.
Right. Yeah. And so because it's a non-conference game, you still feel good if you're Kansas State. But I think the ACC, it's going to go through Coral Gables.
Yeah.
At least that's what it feels like, unless there are some crazy injuries. All right, let's get it to Tuscaloosa Saturday night. Most people probably thought the game was in hand when Alabama was up 28-0.
Wait. Can I tell you a story real quick?
Yeah.
So I go into the press box yesterday at NRG Stadium. Frank Frangie comes up to me and he goes, "Did you watch Georgia, Alabama?" And I said, "Well," and he goes, "I know what you're about to say." And same. We both were prepared to walk away at halftime. In Frank's defense, Frank went back to his hotel room and watched that fourth quarter. I have some friends from my old days at First Coast News who now work in Houston. Shout out the Klesses. And so they were like, "Do you want to go for ice cream before we head home after a family dinner?" And I said, "Well, it's 28-3. So yeah, I will come for ice cream." So I did not watch the Georgia, world's smallest violin, RJ. I did not watch Georgia, Alabama, the game of our lives, the game of the century in the second half live. After sitting through every single play of that abysmal beatdown of a first half.
Well, then what you missed was Carson Beck having moments where he looked like he could be the Heisman Trophy winner, and then moments where he made some serious mistakes. And both DJ Uyunglele and Carson Beck both had 3 interceptions, very different end results, obviously. Florida State getting hammered by SMU, but you can't throw 3 picks as the starting quarterback. And
Cam Ward had 3 turnovers, as someone just reminded us on the text line.
Turnovers, but I think, obviously, the interception that Beck threw to end the game is something that he wishes he had back. But overall, if your defense is going to come out as flat as the Dogs did, you are asking or you're putting too much on Beck. And look, at the end of the day, we talked about him so much last week, and there's a reason for that. Ryan Williams. I tried to tell people how fast that 17-year-old was and how talented he is as a player. And the move that he put on those 2 Georgia defenders was electric and elite, and we'll be talking about him for a long time. And I would love for him to be a part of the Jags, just like once upon a time I wanted Brock Bowers to be a part of the Jaguars. But I also don't want the Jaguars to be picking in the top 5 in 3 years.
Yeah, I think that when you go back to that game, there were so many moments, and I kind of kept going to that point last week of Georgia's offense starts way too slow, and that's what's going to hurt them again in this game. Alabama comes out and scores 21 points right away, and Georgia can't even score that in an entire half. And I had a feeling that's what was going to happen, and I didn't think the second half, obviously, incredible. It's one of the things that you have to give Carson Beck his flowers, even with some turnovers. Some of the things he did do in that second half and bringing them back in that game was really fun to watch. But it's just one of those things where it's like, and it came down to the end, and it could have gone the other way. But in my opinion, it was just one of those things that Alabama's offense just comes out of the gates so quick. It's going to be really hard to beat them.
So one thing we've really hammered home with the Jags, and I think it speaks to college football, it speaks to the game of football at large, is that can you have a successful offensive attack without having some sort of ground game? The Buffalo Bills are the prime example of they put so much on Josh Allen's shoulders through the first few years of his career. Patrick Mahomes to an extent as well. Isaiah Pacheco, I know he's on IR right now, but how important he has been to each of the past 2 Super Bowl runs. James Cook, Joe Brady, that play calling, how that has behooved the Bills. I know they lost last night, but the point still stands. The Georgia Bulldogs. Kirby Smart, we run the ball, we play great defense. Mike Bobo, 80 total rushing yards.
Yeah.
A 3.1 yard per average clip. Now, Alabama averaged 5.4 yards on the ground. 117 of those yards were from Jalen Milroe. So I'm not so sure how sustainable that is either. But that's where I just look at this Georgia offense. And yes, they had to pass the ball because they were down 3 scores basically from the jump.
Yeah.
But I also look at it, and that question of predictability comes in. And this idea of if you're Georgia and you always, put your, like, where do you like leave your cap? And like, what are you prideful for? Like, what is the one thing that you can say that's what we are? It's running the ball and having a great offensive line. And I mean, I just feel like the slow starts have been a byproduct of they're not getting anything on the ground. I also think you do have Carson Beck, so you need to utilize him in the passing game. Don't get me wrong. Like, you shouldn't be making him a game manager because you need to also use him. But at the same time, you hit the nail on the head on Thursday or Friday, Taylor. The slow starts are in large part because they just kind of derp around for the first few drives of the game.
But their defense had, to this point, going into Saturday night, had not allowed a team to score a touchdown. Like, had not allowed any team to score a touchdown on them to start the season. So, to me, Kirby Smart went in with probably thinking, I'm going to rest on my defense, and I don't have to ask my quarterback to do too much, because that's exactly what happened when Georgia beat Kentucky.
Yeah.
The problem is his defense completely let him down, and the explosiveness of Alabama came out of the gates. And Kalen DeBoer now is a guy that, if you had any questions about him going into that game, maybe you did it a little bit in the third quarter, but he's a guy that has cemented his place as one of the best coaches in the SEC, and Kirby Smart still can't get over that Alabama hump. Kirby is now 1-7 going against the Crimson Tide. And so at the end of the day, it's a game where Jalen Milroe, I think, is thrust certainly into the Heisman conversation. He was already there, but he cemented that. And then overall, Georgia's going to be just fine. But they do have some things to work on, certainly. And Alabama is a team that if they're not in the college football playoff, I'll be shocked.
Oh, yeah. And this is obviously a matchup, and we've talked about it, where you could see this matchup 3 times potentially, which I'm down for. Give me this matchup 3 times.
Maybe I'll watch the whole game then.
Yeah, stay up for the whole thing.
Texas is a team that is also a force to be reckoned with.
Yes. And Texas is so fun to watch. Even obviously Quinn Ewers not even playing, and it just looks like they don't miss a beat. I think when we were talking to Roger Hoover on Friday, and we were talking about Jalen Milroe, and I mentioned something about just like how you already were seeing glimpses last year, but it feels like he's taken it to a whole other level, and we kind of linked that to Kalen DeBoer and what he was able to do with Michael Penix, and now what it looks like Jalen Milroe. And someone had texted in on the text line. I was like, I haven't seen him develop at all. Like, I haven't seen him get. If you watch that game on Saturday and tell me Jalen Milroe doesn't look like an absolute star compared to a year ago, and you have to give Kalen DeBoer his flowers a little bit, because this year he looks like, and we already knew he could be a mobile quarterback, but being able to kind of take his arm level and what he can do in the passing game to this next tier has been so much fun to watch, honestly.
And we knew he could hit the deep ball. That was never the knock on Jalen.
It was always those intermediate, can he get those quick
middle
short
of
passes?
the field.
Yeah.
And there were some people coming out of the Manning Passing Academy over the summer who still had questions about Jalen Milroe. And so that is where, yes, I understand he had a whole spring with Kalen DeBoer. Sometimes it takes longer than a spring, folks. That's where this is all Kalen DeBoer, in my eyes, especially when you combine not only at least from what we can see through 4 games, development of Jalen Milroe, the development of Michael Penix Jr. over the duration of his time with Kalen DeBoer at Indiana and at Washington. And then the most important saucy nug of all, RJ, Kalen DeBoer is 30-3 as a power conference coach, a combined 6-0 against Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, and Steve Sarkisian.
Saucy nugs.
Jalen Milroe, though, I don't want to say he hasn't developed under Kalen DeBoer, but he, after being benched against South Florida last year, his career had already started to skyrocket.
Yeah.
Like, he had
and I
23
said you could
touchdowns,
see
6
glimpses last year. I just think he looks like everything that you would see in moments last year is complete. It feels like it's complete at this. Not saying it's 100% done, but you feel like he's this product where you don't see, where there was a little bit of ups and downs in moments last year. You feel like it's the most consistent quarterback that you're one of the more consistent quarterbacks that you're watching right now.
Yeah, and elsewhere in the college football world, you had Kentucky upset Ole Miss 20-17. You had Notre Dame, congratulations Taylor, beat Louisville 31-24. And like I mentioned earlier, SMU just walloped FSU 42-16. And you mentioned UCF, and of course Gator fans all last week were talking about how UCF is going to destroy them because of their ground game and things like that. UCF was beaten by Colorado 48-21. Travis Hunter, that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. What does he play in the NFL? Does he play both ways? Wide receiver, cornerback? Is he going to win the Heisman and things like that? But I think Florida fans are feeling a little bit more confident, even though that line opened at 2.5 and it's already moved to, I think, like 1.5.
It's a pick 'em on some sports books, too. It's
all
1.5, I believe, at my bookie right now.
Yeah.
Look, they still grounded and pounded. I just want to know, chicken or the egg question. Did Colorado pick up a defense on the side of the road on their way from Boulder to Orlando? Or is UCF's run game questionable? Because they didn't look questionable, and they're coming off of a bye. And so that's the question I'd have if I'm a Florida fan right now, is I don't think Colorado's defense, at least through the first 2-3 games of the season, really showed me all that much. Did they just rise up for this moment? And can Florida's defense do what Colorado's defense did? Which, again, I don't think that's that high of a bar to clear, but maybe they have channeled something over the last 2 weeks.
Colorado gave up 284 yards passing, 177 yards on the ground.
Right.
So it's not like they were super
shut them
stout
down.
by any
Right.
means.
They also outscored them. Right. They
Yeah.
outscored them. They still gave up 3 touchdowns. So, I mean,
they kept the ball away. We will see what that looks like as far as Florida squaring off with UCF on Saturday night. It's going to be at 7:45.
Real quick, just back to Alabama. Some of our Heeligans are noting that Kalen DeBoer is doing this with Saban's players. You're not wrong.
What was he supposed to do it with?
What was he supposed to do it with?
To get rid of
Number
everybody
one,
and start over.
last I checked, the guy who caught the pass last year for Alabama, Isaiah Bond, no longer plays at the University of Alabama. He was a Saban player.
Yeah.
They had the number 1 quarterback recruit in the country, Julian Sayin. He flipped his recruitment to Ohio State. And Kalen DeBoer is still finding ways to win in big-time games. I also go back to the fact that he recruited at Washington.
Yes.
Washington. That's a completely different roster ever since he left. I can't speak to, it's the South. He's never recruited the South. What I can tell you, though, is he's made lemonade with the lemons that he's been given. And I understand these aren't lemons. These are very high-profile rosé lemonade, if you want to look at it that way. But I do believe in what I've seen so far because the guy has literally coached all over the country. He has recruited all over the country, and he has found success everywhere.
Also, I've never heard of rosé lemonade.
6 of his starters.
Rosé lemonade? Oh, you gotta have some. Oh, it's amazing. Yeah.
It sounds delicious. 6 of his starters, though, are transfers that he brought in himself, too. So it's like...
Yeah, he had to fill the void because some of those...
The guys that left because...
And again, Milroe looks better this time this year than he did this time last year. I'm all in on Kalen DeBoer.
Me too.
Like, there's no question right now. And look, they're going to lose games. That's just the nature of the sport. But the fact that he picked up the baton, arguably the hardest coaching transition in recent memory in any sport, and he's 4-0 and just beat Georgia.
Yeah.
I know they almost blew it in the second half. Guess what? That's a Georgia team that's been number one for a reason much of the last 2 years.
Here's the 3-game stretch for Alabama if you want to know what they're made of. At Tennessee, 4th-ranked Tennessee, October 19th. The following week, play host to Missouri, 9th-ranked as we speak. And then at LSU, 13th-ranked team in the country.
Right.
So they have a bye in between Missouri and LSU, but still, we'll find out what they're made of.
Yeah, and there's a chance that they trip up, and that's fine. Because I think that a win like this, as long as they don't completely crater, it's enough to show that they are going to be a playoff team, and they are not missing a beat like so many people were worried about when Kalen DeBoer, MyBookie Digital Studio, was the 5th option for Alabama. Reportedly. Again, that's some folks' belief. And yes, real quick before we head to our next break from 5:05, a round of applause, RJ, for the undefeated State University of New Jersey, who took down the aforementioned Washington Huskies on Friday night, and they covered a 2.5-point spread at MyBookie.
Georgia, meanwhile, in a 4-game stretch at number 2 Texas. We'll skip the Florida game. And then at number 12 Ole Miss, who I said just lost to Kentucky, and then play host to Tennessee. So tough road for both of these teams, but it'll be fun to follow. All right, when we return, Taylor Dahl has a tangent. It is a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
Helmets and Heels. This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers.
Homeowners, listen up. The Fed has taken action, lowering rates for the first time in years, and Loan Pronto has followed suit by lowering mortgage rates big time. Prosser here. Loan Pronto just locked in a homeowner at 4.59% APR, the lowest in 2 years. Whether you got your loan last month or last year, it's time to call Loan Pronto and dump that high-rate loan. You can lock in a lower rate fast with virtually no paperwork and usually no appraisal. There's no limit on how many times you can refi, so get started. Even if you're in process with another lender, give Loan Pronto a call. If you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Purchase loans available as well, so call now. Get your rate quote in minutes with no hard credit pull and no upfront fees like those other guys. Call 904-999-1508 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 904-999-1508 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781 on approved credit, MLS consumeraccess.org.
He may have started his career somewhere else, but he found his home in Duval.
Join me, Jeff Logman, for Check the Tape Tuesday on Jaguars Today.
Brought to you by Jack's Napa Auto Care Group.com. Go to the pros Napa know-how on 1010XL.
Mia here, and when I was buying a new construction home last summer, there was no question. Dreamfinders Homes was the builder for me. A big reason why? Their unbeatable interest rates. Right now, you can take advantage of a 2.99% year one rate. Hold up, let me say that again. 2.99% year one rate. That's basically unheard of, folks. Find your dream home, take advantage of unbeatable rates, and move in today. Dreamfinders Homes, the official home builder of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Jimerson Burr is a full-service, Florida-based commercial law firm dedicated to helping businesses manage risk, maximize opportunities, and move their company forward. Jimerson Burr attorneys are business-oriented lawyers equally comfortable as community leaders, private transaction counselors, or courtroom advocates. If you have a legal issue of any kind affecting your business, contact the firm at 389-0050 or jimersonfirm.com.
The Sunshine State says it all in the nickname. That summer sun in Florida can take its toll on an air conditioning unit and send your electric bill through the roof. Florida Home AC can help you handle the heat with a brand new AC unit with low monthly payments and over $3,000 in federal tax credits on select systems. So this summer, don't sweat it out. Cool off with Florida Home AC, the official AC company of the Jaguars. Call them today, 777-4300, and check out their tremendous savings on a brand new AC system.
Hey, Hicken here. Are you tired of having your carpets professionally cleaned only to have them looking dingy again? Zero Res can help. I'll tell you what, they have the technology. Zero Res uses its patented ZR water that cleans beautifully without using any soaps, detergents, or shampoos. That means zero residue left behind. And guess what? Zero Res falling back in time for September. 3 rooms of carpet clean for only $129, and we'll clean a 4th room for free. That's right. The 4th room is on me. Zero Res, man. Spell it forward. Zero Res, spell it backwards. It's a right way to clean.
Big Chief Tire Monday on Helmets and Heels.
This is Keith Scott with Veterans Wholesale Cabinets. We are Northeast Florida's cabinet experts and your best option to elevate your home improvement project for both homeowners and contractors, and attention to detail to every project. VeteransWholesaleCabinets.com.
Now, it's time to showcase the Crown Royal Special Teams Player of the Game. Live generously and life will treat you royally.
Cam Little was huge for the Teal and Black on the road in Houston. The young kicker was perfect for Jacksonville on both his field goal tries and his extra point attempts. Little's nickname should be ATM because he's money whenever Jacksonville needs it. Cam Little is your Crown Royal Special Teams Player of the Game.
Post-game Monday on 1010XL is brought to you by Dandy Foods, makers of quality fresh sandwiches and home of the good stuff. She's seen and heard all over 1010XL's video and social channels.
Whether the big cats are at the bank or on the road, I'm there too. Follow my updates all season long, on air and online.
All things Mia are driven by Arlington Toyota.
Hey, it's Tony from Tony D's Pizza. If you love our pizza and pasta dishes, let us cater an event for you. Family function or office parties, we can deliver you an amazing Italian meal. Remember, it's not just pizza at Tony D's. Bay Meadows and $2.95.
1010XL is presented by Farrah & Farrah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville.
This is Helmets and Heels.
Kept classy by First Coast Lighting and Fans. Upscale lighting, fans, and home decor.
On 1010XL.
Taylor Dalmio, Brian R.J. Saunders. I'm Lauren Brooks with you. I'll keep you updated, by the way. We've got Mets-Braves going on. The first game of the doubleheader is underway. It is 0-0 in the bottom of the first.
I don't think we've actually had Lauren on yet, but not this Lauren Brooks. Lauren Hoffman, one of my mentees up in Atlanta, who's the on-field reporter for the Braves. She actually posted on her Instagram story last night, "I'm so unwell. I'm going to be showing up to work tomorrow at 9 a.m. with a suitcase to go to San Diego or Milwaukee, or I go back to my house."
Yeah, if the Mets win both of these games, the Mets are in the postseason for sure, and so are the Diamondbacks. If the Braves win both of these games, then the Braves are in and the Diamondbacks are in and the Mets are not. But if they split, then both of these teams are in and the Diamondbacks are left home. So it's crazy that it came down to this. Obviously, they would have liked the regular season to be wrapped up by now, but Hurricane Helene had other plans. And still crazy weather effects from that storm. But
for us outside watching, this is fantastic. For fans of those 3 teams, so stressful.
I mean, in theory, don't you just have a handshake between the managers before the game and say, you got the first, I got the second?
Yeah, like if we could both get in here.
Right, but certainly then
But you also hate each other, like the Braves. I mean, they probably don't as much as like fans hate.
Right,
you know,
and you want to win the first game because then you don't have to use your pitcher for the second, your best pitcher for the second game. And so
then you got to play right away,
like that.
Right after that. So you definitely there's some strategy that has to go into this too.
There is. So we will keep you updated. But right now, Taylor Dahl has a tangent.
Now, Taylor's Tangent, served up by Chick-fil-A on 1010XL.
So we have some early awards that was handed out by The Athletic. And so they go through just some of the MVP they have is Sam Darnold through the first 4 weeks. That's another quarterback. Obviously, we've mentioned a little bit of kind of having this resurgence and how the coaching helps that so drastically. It does help having a really good defense, but they kind of got worked a little bit towards the end of that Vikings-Packers game. But so in this, they said, that's right, the man most thought would be a middling rental starter for the Vikings this season. Looks like the best quarterback in the NFL right now through 4 games, leading Minnesota to a 4-0 record with the most touchdown passes in the league, 11, while completing 68.9% of his passes. He threw 3 in Minnesota's 31-29 win at Green Bay yesterday. Also, Lambeau's hard to play into, so for him to go into Lambeau and win that game is even more credit to him. And then he said, I'm already starting to wonder how much this 27-year-old will get in free agency. That will be an interesting question also. And what do the Vikings do next year? Like, if he continues this through the whole year, like, does McCarthy sit?
That's what the plan I would go with if I was. And again, there's a lot of football left to play, but why, if Sam Darnold is going to lead your team to the playoffs this year, why would you say, no, let's go with the guy who's never played in the NFL because of an injury? That seems silly to me.
Which is kind of a bummer for JJ, obviously, because I feel like a lot of people didn't think he'd end up starting. If he did, it would be because of an injury or something like that. People thought Sam would be good enough to just kind of ride out this season, and then next year we'd see JJ. But he's probably like, dang it, like me getting hurt might have now I'm going to be sitting for a while if this continues this way. But another one, they have Rookie of the Year, Jaden Daniels. They said, we ran a pulse poll before the season asking which rookie quarterback would play the best. The number 1 draftee, Caleb Williams, earning the most votes. Yet, thus far, it has been Daniels. He's already looking like one of the league's best quarterbacks of any age. He completed 82% of his passes this year. That's insane.
It is crazy. He's a rookie. He's completing that higher percentage, which is the best in the NFL. And the Commanders are 3-1.
Yeah. 26 of 30 in the win yesterday over the Cardinals and the 42-14. Washington is 3-1 for the first time since 2011.
So does the credit...
Is that RG3 maybe?
Yeah, yeah. And so that's the question. Does the credit go, like it did that year, to the quarterback? And then by nature of, you know what? He was a Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He is an electric player when healthy, both on the ground and through the air.
Yeah.
Or is Cliff Kingsbury simply better at calling X's and O's than he is as a head coach in the National Football League? And you're seeing a resurgent Cliff Kingsbury because that is his sole focus. Dan Quinn is the head coach.
Which that happens. We see it around the league, the guys that are really good at when they're just play calling, and when they have to take on the role as a head coach, things kind of catch up because maybe they aren't good at some of the other things that have to be incorporated in being a head coach. I would say Matt Nagy's one of those guys, even though we could talk about Kansas City's offense and maybe have some question marks of since Matt Nagy's taken over as the or went back and took over offensive coordinator position there. But he was way better when it came to just being able to be the OC for a team. And then when he had to take the leap and make a coach, even though he won Coach of the Year that first year in 2018, it completely fell apart. And so when you look at Jaden Daniels, it is kind of crazy too, because he only has 3 passing touchdowns on the year, but that's the dangerous thing when it comes to these guys who have the duality and like the mobileness that Jaden Daniels has, because he also has 218 rushing yards and 4 rushing touchdowns. That is so hard for teams to game plan against too, because obviously when you have to worry about Jaden taking off, sometimes they're not as concerned about those passes, and I think that could be a part of that 82% that he's completing. But that is a very high number. I think we would take that here in a heartbeat right now.
2011 was Rex Grossman as the starting quarterback, not RG3. And here's bad news. Bad news for that franchise. They went 5-11 that year after starting 3-1.
Not fun.
It's different now. But
that should also give you Jaguars fans a little bit of levity out there as well. That, it's never as good as you think. It's never as bad as you think either. But I'm very happy for Terry McLaurin.
Oh, yeah.
Very, very happy for him. This idea of...
And Brian Robinson, too.
Correct. And Austin Eckler, I know, is hurt right now. But and Jahan Dotson was jettisoned to Philadelphia, unfortunately for him. Because this is a Washington team that certainly new head coach, new GM, new VP, new OC, new quarterback. But they tried to, for lack of a better term, second time I'm using this cliche today, they tried to put a Band-Aid on a bullet hole and just assemble this elite group of pass catchers and hope that would be enough. And I think ultimately, whether he fell into their lap or not, they are recognizing that the only way you can actually truly showcase those elite pass catchers like a McLaurin is by having the quarterback who can get the ball to him. It sounds very elementary, But I think that's the reality of the Washington football team and Commanders over the last 6-7 years.
Yeah, I mean, they're first in the NFC East right now. I had them as my under-the-radar team this year. Did I think they would be first in the division after 4 weeks? No, but that's...
I have them in the playoffs.
I'm trying to remember if I did
No,
or not. I don't think I did.
I was afraid.
I know,
I was afraid.
I was confident just because I watched so much of Jaden Daniels.
Yeah. I have one more before we go, and we can even honestly extend on this if we wanted to, because they have the first coach fired, and they have Nick Sirianni or Doug Peterson. And he says, feels cosmic, right? Sirianni entered the season on thin ice, and after getting waxed by Tampa Bay yesterday, he looks ripe for scapegoating. Philadelphia is too talented to look this bad. Meanwhile, Peterson, the guy Sirianni replaced in Philly, may be coaching the league's worst team, Jacksonville, which dropped to 0-4 with a loss to Houston. Jaguars quarterback Trevor Lawrence has lost all of his last 9 starts, and they said, my bet, Peterson goes first.
Yeah, it's crazy that in the end we had so much discussion about Napier and when would he be fired. And it could be, I'm not saying it's going to be, but it could be that Doug Peterson is let go before Napier. And again, not saying that's going to happen. It should be interesting, though, that both teams could win this weekend and things could maybe turn around for the Jags. I don't know about the Gators. All right, we've got lunch for 2.
We do. Lunch on the ladies, lunch for 2 to Chick-fil-A. Give us a call at 641-1010. Let's say caller number 3.
All right, sounds good. And we will keep that conversation going for the Jags. You're listening to Helmets and Heels on a Big Chief Tire Monday on 1010XL 92.5 FM.
This is Helmets and Heels.
This hour is brought to you by First Coast Honda Dealers. Jacksonville's building a fence along the goal line. This is the Superior Fence and Rail Defensive Player of the Game. Superior Fence and Rail, where quality matters.
Ventrell Miller was dominant for Jacksonville while in H-Town. The 6-foot dynamo tallied 11 tackles against the Texans, 8 of which being solo. The former Gator chomped and stomped all over the Houston offense and looks to continue his strong play next week. Ventrell Miller is your Superior Fence and Rail's Defensive Player of the Game.
If you're tired of your fence looking like a bad hair day, well, it's time for a fence makeover with Superior Fence and Rail. They'll make your yard the talk of the town with a new fence installed by their expert team.
Your fence is fantastic. My fence is giving all of my neighbors some serious pick and envy. Thanks, Superior Fence and Rail.
So get off the fence and call Superior Fence and Rail for your fence installation project today.
SuperiorFenceandRail.com.
What a week of football and betting it was last week. Mia here, and if you haven't bet with MyBookie yet, they are still running that double deposit bonus. Just sign up with promo code 1010XL. A huge week of college and NFL games begins this Thursday night. Get signed up now for a little Sunbelt Funbelt college matchup, folks. Texas State, a 2-touchdown favorite, traveling to Troy. This is the Sunbelt Funbelt, so we'll take the over 58 points on the total. For Thursday night, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers travel to Atlanta, where they open as a 2.5-point underdog to the Falcons. Come on now. Take a long look at those Buccaneers. Taylor Dahl just said to me off air, she thinks they could win the Super Bowl. Parlay that with the over 43.5. For a limited time, MyBookie does still have that double deposit bonus. Use promo code 1010XL to claim a bonus that doubles your money on your very first deposit. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere, only with MyBookie.
Salvatore's famous pizza now in Jacksonville, Tapestry Park off Southside Boulevard. In honor of our favorite player, number 16, Salvatore's large pizza with lots of mozzarella and one topping, only $16. Coupon at salvatores.com. Dine in, pick up, and delivery. $16 for a large Salvatore's pizza with lots of mozzarella and one topping. Coupon at salvatores.com. Tax and delivery extra.
In its final year, we encourage you to help create great futures for young people when you run or walk at Mackenzie's Run, Saturday, November 23rd. Join Boys and Girls Club of Northeast Florida for a 5K and 1-mile fun run through the beautiful stadium course at TPC Sawgrass. Enjoy food, live music, face painting, family fun, and more at our Runners Village. Register at mackenziesrun.org. Mackenzie's 5K and Fun Run, November 23rd. mackenziesrun.org.
It's a Helmets and Heels Big Chief Tire Monday.
Rick Ballou for Carlson Dental. You know, I've been telling you this for quite some time because it's true. I hate going to the dentist, or at least I used to hate going to the dentist. I had total anxiety, and then I tried sedation, light sedation for cleaning and deep sedation as well for cavities and root canals. Folks, it's an incredible experience. So don't be nervous. Don't be scared. Go to CarlsonDentalGroup.com. That's CarlsonDentalGroup.com for all of your dental needs.
Hello, I'm Jerry Holland, Duval County Supervisor of Elections. Are you ready for the presidential election? The clock is ticking. In Florida, you must register to vote 29 days before an election, which is Monday, October 7th. Please check your voter information before voting. If you've moved, visit us at northfloridavotes.com and update your address. Remember also, avoid the long lines on Election Day and vote early. Check your sample ballot for the nearest location. We'll see you at the polls.
Fear the Spear.
Plant your spear and get the latest news and notes from Tallahassee.
It's all about Tomahawk Nation on the Seminole Report. Brought to you by your local Ag Pro, your home team on 1010XL.
This is Dr. Kevin Kaplan, head team physician for your Jacksonville Jaguars. Here's the latest update on the Jags, brought to you by Baptist Health and JOI.
Jaguars head coach Doug Peterson in the postgame on the performance of Trevor Lawrence.
I thought he played well enough. You know, he missed. Obviously, there were some plays out there we missed, but he'd love to have back. Played tough. Thought he saw the field, extremely well. But there's some plays that he can make, and we have to make them next time.
Peterson was asked if he should take over the play calling from Press Taylor.
For what? I thought he called a great game. We can't go out there and make the plays, right? It's a two-way street. You guys can sit here and point the finger all you want, and that's fine. Point it right at me. I can take it, okay? I can take it. Whatever you want to ask me, say, whatever, right, go ahead.
I'm Andrew Gibson with your Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute Jaguars update.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Now, the cool down with Donovan Air Electric and Plumbing. Keeping Jack's cool since 1987.
Quarterback is indeed one of the problems. Just want to make sure we get that out there on the record. Mia O'Brien does believe Trevor Lawrence is not perfect. He is a problem right now. He missed throws. With that said, if I see one more Mac Jones text, comment.
Didn't we already have that experiment in Buffalo?
We're still getting them. I think they're from some trolls, at least in the MyBookie Digital studio, so at least I'm encouraged by at least it's a troll. But we did get some on the text line designed by Lifetime Enclosures, too. Again, I'm not even just going to say it because Travis Etienne seemed to like it when I gave the analogy of shooters have to keep shooting even when they're in a slump. But that's kind of where we're at right now, folks. And I will stand on my bad take that I felt more optimistic about this team long term walking out of the locker room yesterday than I did last Wednesday. Last Wednesday, I had serious questions about if this team was going to pack it in just by body language, how quiet it was. Guys didn't really want to talk. That's probably because us media members are in there, and I don't blame them. But even amongst each other, there wasn't a lot of talking. There wasn't a lot of joking, and that concerned me. But walking out of there yesterday, yes, they were disappointed with the outcome. They were frustrated. There were opportunities for this game to be won. But at the very least, it was we know we are still a football team that is operational, and there is still room for us to correct those mistakes, even in an 0-4 hole to begin the season. Because ultimately, you are what your record says you are, but you're your own resume. And so whether it's here in Jacksonville in 2024 or beyond, I think that there is still some semblance, Taylor, of we are going to make this respectable. And we are going to take this one game at a time. And I think that was encouraging for me to see, especially because look at the landscape right now of the NFL that we just went through with Taylor's Tangent. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. And maybe I'm just being the optimist, but I'm just saying I felt much more encouraged in terms of how players are responding to a loss yesterday. And that, for me, is a huge step forward, even if the big picture certainly still presents the opportunity for maybe this is not the marriage we thought it was between head coach, players, GM, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, I think the Jags need to lean on the run game as much as possible until some of the things get sorted out offensively and whatever. Maybe that's Evan Ingram coming back and you feel like that changes things. And so we'll see how soon that happens. But when you took Tank out, when he barely touched the ball in the second half whatsoever, they go punt, touchdown, downs, punt, punt. And I think that you could clearly tell there's a reason it's okay. It's really actually beneficial. If you don't have one of those absolute superstar running backs, it's really good to have two guys that can do different things. And it's okay to say, this is what ETN can do. This is what Tank can do. This is where they are most successful, and use those two running backs in the situations where they're set up when it obviously helps them the most. And I think that what you were able to see in this run game was a positive for me coming out of this, because I feel like it really can help the offense if you're able to consistently run the ball the way they did yesterday, because I do think it does take some pressure off of Trevor. It obviously takes some pressure off the offensive line at certain times when it comes to not having to, if these backs like a Tank can just go up the middle no matter what. Obviously, that helps them a ton. But I do think when it comes to Trevor, since there's something off right now, and for him to be able to just kind of relax and breathe for a second, dial it down. Let's rely on the run game as much as you can until things feel like they're sorted out. And like I said, maybe that's Evan Ingram coming back. But to me right now, it feels like if you have a team that can rush the ball, have 158 rushing yards, you need to use that.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, the offense finally had rhythm yesterday. That was my biggest takeaway from the game, is that, yes, outside of Trevor missing throws, at least they had at times where they had good drives, sustained drives, instead of either a quick 3 and out, or they convert one first down and then turn the ball or give the ball up. At the end of the day, too, Trevor Lawrence is a guy that's going to be scrutinized for everything that happens because he's the franchise quarterback and he's been paid like that. CJ Stroud is also analyzed like that. It's just in Houston, because they have multiple victories, it's not the dire straits that it is here. And winning does cover up a lot of things. Winning does cure a lot of things. Yeah. The Jaguars, it's certainly beyond must-win territory at this point because they started 0-4. But if there's ever a must-win Sunday at home when you're honoring Tom Coughlin and putting him into the Pride here at Everbank Stadium, that's a must-win. You're wearing the throwbacks. I like that ETN referenced that. Like, we need to get a win wearing the throwbacks. I hope they know why they're wearing the throwbacks, that TC is going in the Pride. By the way, quick programming note, lots of high school football on tonight. Those games were moved again due to the storm, Hurricane Helene. So Bishop Kenny is at Parker. That is at 6 o'clock over on 92.5 FM. And then also at 6 o'clock, but on 1010 AM, is going to be Bulls taking on Baldwin. And then because of the high school programming, at 2 o'clock, you've got XL Primetime on 92.5 FM and Rick Ballou and JJ LaSelva on 1010 AM. So lots of moving parts here on the Superstation, and more high school football for you. All right, so Taylor just mentioned me about Doug Peterson, and now that he's got some of the best odds as far as coaches being fired, tied with Nick Sirianni, do you think that Shad Khan, and we haven't talked to Shad, so it's more speculation, but do you think Shad Khan is in a place where the frustrations are going to boil over during the season if things don't improve?
So he's only made 2 in season, well, technically 3 if you want to include Dave. So in his, 12 years covering the team, that's...
Owning the team?
Owning the team. Sorry. Words are hard today. I didn't get back till late last night. So 3, Dave, Gus, and then Urban.
Right.
And largely Dave and Gus, the writing was on the wall. Mm-hmm. So I think it comes down to, will the writing be on the wall? And ultimately, for me, I said it in the 12 o'clock hour, and I'll say it again. Even if the Jags do the impossible and they do turn this thing around, I still think there's a scenario where you say we're winning, but is this current iteration of the operation the best thing for the development of our quarterback long term?
And is it in spite of? Because sometimes you'll see teams kind of rally and have these miracle things, but you still look back and you're like, you're looking at bad coaching, but they're still able to win with bad coaching. You've seen teams be able to do that.
The other question is, if Doug Peterson is fired, what happens with Trent Baalke, the general manager? Right. Is it a clean sweep that a lot of people would certainly be calling for? Definitely. Or does Shad say, well, I like some of the pieces here. That's why I've paid them and given them second contracts. So I'm going to retain the GM. I'm only going to do a coaching search. I'm going to do that with Trent Baalke at that point in time. I have absolutely no idea what Shad wants to do as far as that's concerned. But we've never seen him fire both the GM and the coach at once.
So 566 says, wouldn't it make sense to fire Balky ASAP, leave Doug in for the next guy to evaluate? I think it's, quite frankly, it's the opposite. Because Shad Khan said, quote, this is the best Jaguars team, at the very least under his ownership, that he has had in Jacksonville.
Yeah, he forgot to say the latter part of that.
Yes.
Under his ownership.
Yes, he just said the best Jaguars team ever. So I was trying.
And people immediately clapped.
Yeah, Kevin Hardy, Jimmy Smith.
Yeah.
We see you all. And so that's where, if he really believes this is as talented a team now as he did a month and a half ago on paper before they played a regular season game, and if you have said to Doug that he's entrusted the development of his biggest monetary asset outside of the Shipyards project and the Four Seasons and the stadium and everything else included there, which is Trevor Lawrence, if you've entrusted him with the development of that quarterback and you are not seeing results, that's on you. Because in theory, again, this is all big picture, the concepts of the plan. Trent Baalke gave you this player that you believe is really good. It requires coaching. And if you're not seeing that coaching, that is where, again, that's why you would see a scenario of the coach going before the GM. But it is a great question, because if he still believes that when the season is done, that this was a great roster and they just weren't coached or inspired properly, then yes, you could see a world where that exists. And again, I have no intel on this. I'm just speaking to you guys big picture here. And there's the other side of the coin of, you know what? For the first time in 12 years, it's time to completely clean house.
I would like for Shad to have a very candid conversation with Trevor, certainly, and see what he thinks if he hasn't done that. I would also like him to talk, Taylor, to Bill Belichick. And I'm not saying Bill Belichick becomes the next coach. He may be overcoaching, although there are reports that he wants to coach again. He is in his early 70s, so that's not necessarily ideal as far as age is concerned. But what does Bill Belichick think about the operation, offensively, defensively? What does he think about the direction that this franchise is heading? I'd hire him as a consultant in a heartbeat to figure out what the root of the issue is outside of just the quarterback's not playing well.
Yeah, I think that when you go back and you look at the issues over the last a long time, but since Shad Khan's let's just start from there, because I think that there's a lot of different issues, and I feel like each year there's been different excuses for why things didn't go right. And obviously there was just straight up flat bad years. We know that. But then there were other years where you felt like kind of like you did this year, and that we could go after the 2017 season, that 2018 season, of you felt like you still had a pretty good roster on paper, and you were like, okay, they could go to the AFC Championship last year. Why did it so drastically regress? And I think that does go back to the top and trickles down. And so I do think that if it came down to, which we will see, like I said, the rest of the season goes, but if Doug goes and Press goes, I feel like Trent has to go. It's just one of those things, you've got to start fresh. It kind of sucks. Like, you felt like you were finally in this position where you didn't have to be that person in a coaching search and a GM search again. But I feel like it would be beneficial for the organization as a whole if they are just like, let's start over. And to your point, talk to somebody like Belichick. Belichick's drafts the last 10 years have been really, really bad. So that's one of the reasons I don't want him to be the head coach here. But I think that other aspects of how he's been able to manage a lot of strong, quirky, weird personalities when it comes to coaching staffs and player personnel, all of it, and talk to him and see, like, I mean, maybe be like, is it Trent? Is it Doug? Is it Press? Is it all three of them? Do we need to clean house? And maybe Bill says no. Doug, maybe it's just the head coach. The head coach can change everything. An offensive coordinator can change. We saw what it did with Buffalo, even though we didn't see that yesterday. But when it comes to having an organization that you want to give a fresh start to, that fresh start involves getting rid of everybody, in my opinion.
Well, if you're going to have a new GM and a new head coach, a lot of times the GM wants to pick the head coach, and they want to have more power than the head coach and not be equal. Yeah. And that's the system that at least we've seen here.
Before we say hello to XL Primetime, Doug Peterson is meeting with reporters down at the Miller Electric Center as we speak to you. A couple of injury updates. He said that Devin Lloyd has a knee contusion. He made it to the warm-up, but they didn't feel good about it. They are hoping to have Darnell Savage back this week against the Colts. Evan Ingram is day-to-day and felt good today. Travis Etienne is fine, and Josh Hines-Allen remains in the concussion protocol.
All right, let's say hello to Primetime.
Now, the 2-minute drill, brought to you by Injury Care Centers. Discover BioTarget Regenerative Therapy, a safer, drug-free solution for lasting pain relief. Visit GoBioTarget.com.
Joe, is Trevor Lawrence broken? And if so, how do you fix it?
I wouldn't say he's broken. I would just say he's part of something that is broke. There is a lot to fix. You can't just change oil, change spark plugs, get it back out on the road. There's a lot that's broken on this football team. They have spent a bunch of money. We all know that. Free agency. Just take this classic example. I tweeted out yesterday. Buster Brown is the best secondary player out on the field right now. Andre Sisco's trying to get himself a big old contract. He and Ronald Darby was signed as a 10-year veteran and is just getting smoked on plays. And so they gave up. C.J. Stroud had more passing yards than this team had total yards. So there's problems everywhere.
Yeah, you gave up a ton of passing yards, but you still had a chance to win the football game with the lead under 4 minutes to play and the ball.
Yeah, they played a winnable ball game. Doug, who I always love being aggressive, but that was just a bonehead decision. I just 100% think, A, you're up with the lead. I like the idea if you don't get it, they got to go the length of the field. But guess what? They were going the length of the field. They made up big chunk plays and got down the field. You did stop them on that one. But at the same time, you have to give yourself the best opportunity to win a football game. And so anyway, there's trouble everywhere. Trouble in River City.
Outside of Bama, Georgia, I know you guys will talk a lot of college football, I'm sure. What was your favorite game outside of Bama, Georgia?
Gosh, Colorado UCF.
Those nights.
Listen, I stroke checks still, I think, to UCF. and I thought they were going to win that football game comfortably. And it ticked me off. It was embarrassing at the end because it seemed like Gus Malzahn had a lot of good things going and then could not figure it out. But I have to give Deion credit. It wasn't necessarily the best result, but it was a good game. I got to give Deion and Shador and all those guys credit. The other one was Kentucky and Ole Miss.
Yeah.
My gosh. Mark Stoops is already planning on beating Lane Kiffin once he gets the Florida job. So
I love his, he was like crowd surfing in the locker room on the players. I was like, he's having a blast right now.
He's a hell of a defensive coach. If they just could figure things out offensively, they'd be in great shape.
All right, what's coming up? Let me guess. Some Jags, some college football?
Yeah, that's it. Pretty much. We're going to get them to pop off. We're going to get them to fire a few people if they want, but we'll definitely be doing that for the next couple of hours.
All right, thanks, Joe. And just a reminder, Rick Ballou is over on 1010 AM from 2 to 4, XL Primetime here on 92.5 FM from 2 to 4. That's going to do it for us today. For Mia O'Brien, for Taylor Dahl, for RJ Saunders, I'm Lauren Brooks. These heels are made for talking, and we will talk to you tomorrow.
I'm gonna walk all over you.